everybody. How you doing? Good? All right, let's do it again. You're going to know something about me. My presentations are all very interactive, so I'm going to ask you again. How's everybody doing? Great. There we go. Now, my name is Alex Vidal. I am the president of a real estate brokerage called Related ISG International Realty. And I just want to take a moment and thank you. I'm not quite sure why you guys are all here to hear me of all people, but I think I've been very fortunate in my life to have been surrounded and have met and interviewed and spoken with a lot of people that are very, very successful, significantly more successful than I am. And as I always share with my agents and anybody I speak to, I am not a mindset guru or a goals guru or anything like that. I'm a guy that got into real estate at 19 years old because I had a son at 19, and I just happened to be in the business 21 years. And I consider myself extremely lucky because everything that you're going to hear today, none of it is mine, okay? Maybe 10% of it may be mine, but as I share with my agents, I'm able to act as that funnel where I'm able to gather all this information from a lot of different people and put it into one bottle that I can then share with all of you. But before we get started, your head may be in the video there, just so you know, okay? Sorry. Before we get started though, one of the things I realize is I don't know a lot of the people in this room, and I'm sure that you don't know a lot of the people in this room either. So I love starting my presentations off with, if you can, take a moment to shake the person's hand in front of you, behind you, next to you, and introduce yourself. What's up, brother? Good, David. Good to see you. Good to see you face in the crowd. All right, cool. By the way, that is something that you will never do enough of. This business, it was funny, Tom Ferry posted something this morning that you can never get in front of enough people, okay? So always shake people's hands, always introduce yourself, unless you have technical difficulties like we did, which we have some kind of a major rig going here to get the presentation on, so I apologize. But I have about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and I promise that I'm going to make every effort that I can to not bore you, but there's a lot of information in this presentation that I think that if you're able to take one thing out of it, you can significantly make a impact on your life in 2019. The title of the presentation is called The Chipper. Now the reason I called it The Chipper was I do CrossFit. It's my therapy. Okay, I put an entire CrossFit gym in my garage. But they have what are called chipper workouts. And a chipper workout is, if you were to look at it, it is literally a laundry list of things that we have to attempt within a certain amount of time. Or you just have to do it no matter how long it takes you. It could take you an hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. But anytime you look at a chipper workout and you look at it in its entirety, you get overwhelmed. And the reason that they call it a chipper is because what they're trying to teach you is to not look at the 20 different exercises that you need to do that are going to take you an hour, but to chip away at it each time. And when we look at our goals, I think anytime we look to set our goals in our life, me included, and I have some major ones I'll share with you in a little bit, we look at them and they can be very, very daunting when we look at our goals. If I look at my goals for 2019 from a global perspective, they scare the living crap out of me. But the only way that I'm going to be able to accomplish my goals in 2019 is to not be consumed by the global overview of what my goals are, but to chip away at them, okay? And what I have found, and I'm gonna have to go through this a little bit, okay, and it's gonna take a little bit to download. There's two great quotes that are up here, and one is that a river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence. And the second one, again, just bear with me as it uploads, is success is a sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. And what you're going to hear consistently through the presentation today is that your goals will only be accomplished by doing work every single day, okay? And so make sure you keep these through your head and realize that whatever your goals are, you're really gonna have to break it down to something that you have to do on a daily basis to reach whatever that goal is. Now, the biggest question I want to ask today, and when it comes to goal setting, and I'm going a little fast, I know we have about 30 minutes, is what if? And I think that many times we look at ourselves, and let's say your goal is you sell $1 million a year worth of real estate, or that's been your goal, and now you want to sell 10 million. And you get daunted with that what if, and you get scared. But rather than looking at it from a scared perspective, what if you are able to accomplish selling $10 million worth of real estate? What is it if I'm able to accomplish having ownership in my company, or doubling my income, or getting ripped, or making my show huge, okay, which I'm going to share with you in a little bit. What if I'm able to do all that? So there's a great book by a guy named David Goggins. It's Can't Hurt Me. It's full of very foul language if you listen to the audio version of it. It's one of the greatest books I've ever heard. I don't read. I have ADD. I can't sit there and read. So I have to actually listen to the book. David, who's sitting over here, and I have talked about this book at length. And he asked a question about what if. And right now I'm consumed by two things. What if and my capacity, and we'll talk about capacity in a little bit. So the major thing I want you to have going through this is, what if you are able to accomplish your goals? How does your life change? What if? So there's one thing you're going to write down right now is what if. Now, I do a show. I started a show via Facebook and Instagram and all that, which was initially called Inquiring Minds Want to Know. And I just changed the name this Wednesday to the Closer Club. The reason is I said anybody who's successful is a closer. So I changed it to the Closer Club. Also because I could trademark it. I own the domain, thecloserclub.com. So it's going to make it a lot easier for me to promote it as we go. But I've had the luxury or the benefit of interviewing some very successful people. So for example, on Wednesday I flew to LA. I interviewed a guy named Tom Bilyeu. And Tom Bilyeu is the owner of Quest Nutrition. It's the second fastest growing company ever in the history of companies. It grew 57,000% in just 3 years. The guy's worth $500 million. I've interviewed local, Gil Desert, billionaire. I've interviewed nationally, Ryan Searhant from $1 Million Listing New York, or Dura Parikh, the #6 agent in the country, or Francis Suarez, the mayor of Miami. I've actually now totaled 40 interviews in all. And what's beauty about this is that through 40 interviews, I have able to really break it down into what are the common denominators among the super successful. So these are denominators that you're gonna have to look at yourself and say, okay, do I have these? Okay. And also the things that you're going to encounter as you go through your goal setting. Because when you think about what if, and I'll share you with my goals right now. Get ownership in my brokerage related ISG. I want to double my income. I want to buy 2 investment properties. I'm going to make my show national, and I want to get ripped. Those are my goals. Okay, simple as that. And I have no fear in sharing them. Okay, and no matter what anybody thinks, good for you. Okay, those are my goals. And I will tell you right now that it scares a lot of people, including myself. Okay, but when I look at it, I look at what are the common denominators among the super successful, and I'm like, I got them. Okay, so I want to share with you what they are, because this is what you're going to need in order to reach the level of success that you want to reach, whatever that is. And by the way, you're going to need a pen and paper for those of you that don't need it, because I'm going to put you to work in a little bit. So let me share with you what are the 5 common denominators among the super successful. Number 1, as corny as it sounds, they dream big. If you want to sell $10 million worth of real estate, you want to sell a unit here at Acqualina, you want to sell one at Turnberry next door, or anything, whatever it is, if you can't dream it, how the hell are you going to get there? I was driving all through LA. If I didn't have my GPS phone with me, or my phone with my GPS, I wouldn't know where to go, right? If I didn't know what my destination was. So you have to have that destination, but it's got to be really big. So big that you yourself are going to think you're crazy, okay? So number 1 is you have to dream big. Number 2, they are very careful who they get their advice from. All right, now pay attention to this, because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to share with you, I want ownership of my company. I want to double my income or whatever. And well, now I'm going to put it out there, so you may not do this, but some of you may come up to me, say, hey, I got a way on how you can double your income. I got a way on how you can get ownership. Hey, I got a way on how you can get ripped. I got a way on how you can make your show huge, okay? Everybody, and you probably have experienced this in your life, tell somebody in your real estate office you want to sell $10 million worth of real estate. They probably are going to say, you're nuts, or they're going to give you a piece of advice on how you can sell $10 million worth of real estate. So you have to be very careful who you take your advice from. And I always give the example of my wife's a pediatrician. I have 4 boys. My 21-year-old who got me in the real estate, I have a 12-year-old, and I have 9-year-old twins, okay? When I started this show, she was giving me social media advice. And I looked at her and I said, but babe, you're a pediatrician. If the kids are sick, you don't come to me, the realtor, the president of Related ISG, they go to you. Okay? You're a pediatrician. What do you know about social media in order to give me social media advice? And that I was going through that. Okay? People giving me advice. And the best way I could answer this question was when I interviewed Tom on Wednesday. It's a great interview. I think you should watch it because and I'm not promoting it for that. It's just the content is probably one of the best I've ever done. But he had a great answer to this because we actually specifically went through these 5. I mean, the guy's worth $500 million. I think it's cool to talk about these challenges, right? And his answer about how he would take his advice as he was growing his business was twofold. The first way he said was, well, did this person who's giving me advice do what I want to do 3 times over in the same industry? So and I asked him to repeat that. So if you're asking for somebody to sell $10 million worth of real estate and they're giving you advice, did they sell $10 million worth of real estate 3 years in a row or 3 times over? Okay? Now, the second piece of that is if they didn't, you still want to listen to their advice because they may provide something valuable, but you don't want to just take the advice, the end goal. You want to hear what their logic is behind the advice that they're giving you. And that is something that I had never heard before. So as you go through your goals, and if you're open enough to want to share with people your what if goal, let's call it that, okay? And people are all of a sudden going to start giving you advice on why you shouldn't go door knocking or why you shouldn't make phone calls or why you should go door knocking or whatever it is. And maybe they've never done it, who knows? If they haven't sold or done what you've asked them, what you want to do 3 times over, get the logic behind it. Okay, because there are a lot of people that are willing to give advice, but not many follow their own advice. So be very careful who you get your advice from. Number 3, they pay to have the right mentors in their life, or they pay to put themselves, and under that, they pay to play. So in my goals, there are certain goals that I have that I just did not have the business acumen to pull it off. I just didn't. And what I wanted was unbiased help. Because you can have biased help, right? But then there's an agenda. I wanted unbiased help. So one of the guys that I hired is this guy right here, Brad Lee. He's the owner of a company called Lightspeed Virtual Training. So if you ever do Cardone University or Damon John's training or Tony Robbins training online and all that stuff, that's his platform. The guy's worth $50 million. I loved his style. I knew he would call me out on my shit, and all that. And I hired him as a business coach. So I paid to have somebody mentor me. I have 4 mentors in my life that are free, and they're amazing. But I paid to have this guy as a mentor in my life. The other thing is, another reason why I paid, a subsegment to this is, what's one of my goals? I want to make my show huge, right? This guy's clients are Tony Robbins, Damon John, Grant Cardone, among others. Now, social media has given this wonderful ability. You guys know what 6 degrees of separation are? Yes. That you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows President Trump, right? Let's just say it, okay? Nowadays, with social media, you know somebody who knows that person. Yeah. That 6 degrees of separation is now down to 2. So when I think about Tony Robbins and how far out he is of me ever reaching this guy, by paying Brad to be my coach, even if I got no business acumen from him, I just reduced my 6 degrees of separation to 2 by being directly connected to Brad. Think about it. So I'm paying to have the right mentorship, but I'm paying to play. The breakthrough moment. So this was interesting because I asked this to Tom. In a lot of the interviews, I ask people, what is your breakthrough moment? What was it that just set it off? And because of the context of the interviews, 15 or 20 minutes, they answer it. Patrick Bet-David, and who owns one of the largest life insurance companies in the country, said, my dad got into the hospital. We didn't have the money to pay the hospital bill. They wanted to transfer him out. And that was his direct breakthrough, the thing that set him off. But off camera, he gave me all these other series of events. Tom talked about it on Wednesday. His Quest company it's a $1 billion company, to give you an idea. They did that in 3 years from nothing, okay? And he talks about, he goes, yeah, we were a 12-year overnight success, is how he talks about Quest Nutrition. And you will notice that you're going to see on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram and all that stuff, what people call the highlight reel. Like, hey, I sold this $6.5 million unit here at Acqualina. or I closed 50 deals this year, or whatever it is. What they're not showing you is that buyer that bought this $6.5 million unit in Acqualina, literally, they were texting them and emailing them every single day. Perfect example. How many of you watch that show Shameless on Showtime? Anybody here? Okay. So I personally, I only watch one TV show. It's called Shameless. I love it. It's raunchy. I love it. Okay. It's my style. So there is a guy on Shameless named Steve Howey, who's one of the main actors. He's actually my favorite actor on the show. If I tell you that I have literally pelted this guy 50 times through Instagram DM to get on my show, 50 times. So much so, he goes, Jesus, man, you're relentless. He finally replied as I was sitting at LAX airport on flying back to this trip. Jesus, man, you're relentless, okay? You're an inspiration. Why in the Jesus earth would you ever want to interview me? So I said, my reply was this, literally laugh out loud, so I guess you're in. He goes, I'm in. And he gave me his cell phone, okay? And I literally ended up talking to him for like 30 minutes on the phone yesterday about, you name it, from having twins to him getting a vasectomy to, his wife being in New York. No, like the craziest shit ever, But, and this guy's a major actor, which by the way, these people are no different than any of us. So when you get exposed, like maybe sometimes you sell this guy a $50 million house or a $10 million house, you're like, man, I'm living in a $200,000 condo, but this guy's buying a $10 million house. And there's no difference, by the way. There's absolutely no difference. Sometimes I think they're more messed up than we are. Okay? There is no difference between us and them. There really isn't. But ultimately, the difference is that they never gave up, and they literally, how we started the presentation, they chipped away. Okay? Yeah. The last one, the fifth common denominator is, and there's two parts to this, is A, they believe in themselves. And they believe in themselves so much that the second part is when they have that moment of self-doubt, because you absolutely will have that moment of self-doubt. I have them all the time, okay? That when you do have that moment of self-doubt, you're able to snap out of it within a few minutes. And the equations that I give are just examples of my own, where how many of you know Tom Ferry? It's all of you, okay. So 3 weeks ago, I interviewed Tom Ferry, all right? And I flew out to LA. It was my second trip. So I've gone to New York twice, Dallas, Raleigh, now LA 3 times, okay, for this real estate show. And I flew out, and I remember I flew out on a Monday night, slept 3 hours because my flight got super delayed, okay, woke up, went to CrossFit on 3 hours of sleep, went to interview Tom, and then it was a real crappy day in LA, and I just decided to go to the airport, and I sat at the airport for 9 hours working. And I got so much done. Actually, that's how I did the presentation. I did this presentation while I was sitting in the airport at LA. Well, the framework, and then I gave it to my marketing team to make it pretty. But I remember, so the way it works in CrossFit is it's not like LA Fitness where you just walk in and do your own thing. Like they're classes. And the movements are complex. So typically you can't just walk into a CrossFit gym and do your own thing. Like you have to participate in the class. It's a very close-knit community. I love it. Great for networking, by the way. Anything, Orange Theory, anything that puts you in a group with other people, like-minded people, will absolutely help you do more business. But anyway, so I go to CrossFit, and the guys are like, "Oh, are you a new member?" I'm like, "No, I'm dropping in. I'm in from Miami." And they say, "Oh, cool. How long are you in town for? Or when did you get in?" I'm like, 5 hours ago. And they're like, "Oh, so what? You're here for the week?" I'm like, "No. I leave tonight on a red eye." "Oh my God, you're crazy." Okay. I go, I interview Tom, great interview, another great interview. But then after I was done interviewing Tom, I go get lunch. And as we're sitting there at lunch, or I'm sitting there at lunch, the waitress asked me, "Do you want to become a rewards member?" And I said, no, I don't live here, I'm traveling. "Oh, typical answer, where are you from?" "I'm from Miami." "Great, when did you get into town?" At this point, 8 hours ago. "Oh, so how long are you here for?" 4 more hours, I'm going to whatever, She goes, "Oh my God, you're crazy." So then I remember finishing lunch, and I got in the car, and self-doubt set in right then and there. Like I'm literally getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. And I pulled out my phone, and I started texting my wife, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Pardon my French, but I curse. I go, I'm a real estate guy. I run a real estate company. We have 6 offices, 560 agents right now. What am I doing a show for? Everybody that told me, what are you, a president of a company or a show host or whatever, those doubts started creeping in. I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm like, man, these guys think I'm crazy. I'm like, I'm in LA doing an interview for an hour? I flew to LA for a 1-hour interview. Think about that. Because I don't believe in split screens. I think that's the wimpy way out. If you're gonna do it right. Okay? My opinion, that's me. And I started, but as I was typing it, I was like, you know what? If everybody thinks I'm crazy, I must be doing something right. Now, this interview with Tom on Wednesday, for me, was so enlightening, of probably most enlightening of anything I've ever done in my life. So I brought this up to him, and he goes, well, Alex, somebody's right. Either they are or you are. In other words, either you are crazy and you're on the verge of something great, or you're like legit crazy, you're gonna blow up. And that's the battle that as entrepreneurs and as business people and in that what if that we want to get to, right? That's the battle that you're gonna have to embrace is, am I crazy good or am I really freaking crazy? Okay? So you will have the self-doubt. Now, here's what's gonna happen, okay? Dreaming big has many, many side effects. So I'm gonna share with you what they are, okay? And if you don't mind, I'm gonna take a sip of coffee here. Number 1, people will talk you out of it. Actually, this is it. This is really the main side effect. People are going to talk you out of it. Why do people want to talk you out of your goal? What is it? There you go. Number 1, usually they're talking to themselves. They couldn't pull it off, right? And by the way, this is not my content. I'm just happen to be the guy that can funnel it all together into one bottle so I can present it to you today at Acqualina, all right? And I always joke, I never understood why there are so many public speakers and so many podcasts and so many people that do interviews like I do and all that stuff. Then I'm like, you know what? There's 7 billion people in the world. And you can, it's how can I explain this? 7 billion people in the world. You're not going to relate to everybody who's got a show. And not only do you have to be able to relate to this person, you got to be able to relate to them at the right time in your life at the moment that you needed to hear what you needed to hear. Okay? But this is all recycled content. I'm a real estate guy. I just happen to be able to put this together for you. But usually they're talking to themselves because they couldn't pull it off. Okay? So you have to be very careful that you're going to be hearing that as you tell people, if you're willing to tell people what your goals are. I think you should. Who gives a shit? Somebody asks you what your goal is, tell them. Be proud of it. Own it. But people will tell, they're usually talking to themselves. Number 2, this is a big one, especially for those that have families and all that. They were scared of how your role in their life is going to change. So I want to repeat this. They are scared of how your role in their life is going to change. So I'm looking over here at David Martyr. And David just joined us from Coldwell Banker. Okay, joined my brokerage from Coldwell Banker. And one of the reasons David joined, or actually I would say probably the main reason, was him and I are very like-minded in terms of what we want for our lives, our vision. We're fascinated by capacity and how far we can push ourselves. David's married, wants to have a kid soon. And I go, but David, you're going to feel something as you go through it. When you start telling your wife the things that you want to do, you are going to get pushback. When I tell my wife what I want to do, I'm going to get pushback because I may not be able to go and pick up my kid. My kids all play competitive soccer and take them to practice or pick them up. Or I may have to travel to LA for 24 hours, which means you got to handle dropping the kids off at school in the morning and taking them to practice at night. Double whammy, okay? So you need to be careful because, or if you have bosses in your life, whatever it is, you have to be careful because the advice that you may be getting, okay, is based on how they think your role is going to change in their life. That is a monster one. Number 3, they are scared of how they're going to feel about themselves if you pull off your goal. Okay? Remember, people have their own insecurities, and what will happen is they are scared about how they're going to feel about themselves when they see you pushing through. Because maybe Liz and I are friends, and Liz is doing a phenomenal job, by the way. She's my manager in Coral Gables. But we may sit, if she didn't make this, I mean, she like ignited in December, like fucking ignited with a fire under her, okay? But maybe if she didn't, maybe she would have felt intimidated by us all reaching and not going there. You're going to experience that in your life with your friends, with your family. Talking about friends and family, you may want to replace some of them. Okay? You're laughing. Okay? But it's very true. Because it's very sad when you go to dinner with a friend and you're talking to them and they're talking about how they may be miserable in their marriage or their job or whatever. And you're like, all right, dude, well, this is great. You have a foundation. Now work on it. Yeah, no, I don't know. And you're like, there are two types of people. Energy, used to say energy suckers. So I try to clean it up and put energy drainers and energy providers. Okay? And as you get on this roll, you don't want people that, as you're going, that are going to put you into the mud. You want smooth pavement. It's never going to be smooth, but you want to be able to go and roll. You don't want people to be able to slow you down. And I know that you have people in your life right now that are like that. That they complain about everything going on in their life, but yet they're not willing to do anything about it. Okay? And I'll tell you what it is. It's fear. It's 100% fear. So we're going to address fear in a minute. And last but not least, it's lonely. I look at Seth. I know Seth and I have had this conversation before. It is lonely. Because I had this conversation this morning with my wife. She goes, you can't expect everybody to be like you. We're talking about some of our friends. I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. But it's lonely. Because when you're pushing yourself and all of a sudden people are looking at you and saying, well, how's Alex's role going to change? Like my role, I look at Carolina and Liz, my managers for, Carolina's my manager for Aventura and West, and Liz is for Coral Gables. My role in their life has changed. I'm not involved as much with them on the day-to-day. Now, what I love about it is, rather than them being scared, they're saying, oh man, I see what you're doing. I sit down with an agent, they know the company, they know you, they want to work for somebody like us that's motivated, whatever. They're supporting. It took time, okay? But it is lonely, and you just have to get used to it, okay? Now, let's talk about the end, okay? If your life was a movie, and let's say that for purposes of today, 2019 is the end of your movie, okay? What would that look like? So if you have a pen and paper, take it out. Use your iPhone. If you need a napkin, let me know. And you don't know how many. You have no idea how many agents I've recruited using a napkin, like literally sitting down using a napkin. No excuse. Okay. Right now, and I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay. What's the end of your movie like in 2019? I sold this. I did this, and it may not necessarily. Remember, mine are a mixture, right? Some are professional, own my company, or a part of my company. Some are personal, I want to get ripped. Double my income is, I guess, personal and business. I don't know how you want to look at it. Buy 2 investment properties, that's personal. What does your movie look like at the end of 2019? I have a mentor, his name's Emmett Logan. And Emmett, to give you an idea, he just turned 80 years old in October. He was back in the day, so we're going, 60-something years ago, was in the street gangs of New Jersey, okay? Was scared of heights, went to college one day, dropped out, and enrolled in the military as a paratrooper. Okay? Because he figured, well, if I'm scared of heights, the only way I can do it is by jumping out of a plane. I mean, he's that crazy. He's also one of the most phenomenal guys I have ever met in my life. And he happens to be one of the free mentors that I have, okay? After he got out of the military, he was homeless, living out of a shelter, and he was an alcoholic. And he would wash dishes by day and load boxes for UPS at night. And he did such a great job in how he configured the boxes and all that stuff that he got promoted within UPS, promoted within UPS, promoted within UPS. Then by the time he was done, he almost ended up running UPS worldwide from loading boxes at night as an alcoholic, homeless. One of the most remarkable guys you will ever meet in your life. So he taught me something. He goes, Alex, goal setting and reaching your goals and all that stuff, it's not really that complicated. Now, you're going to listen to this guy because of his background, right? He goes, the way you do it is you have one master goal, and then there are 4 or 5 things you need to do on a daily basis to reach that goal. And if you spend 80% of your time on number 1, usually 2, 3, 4, and 5 just follow right behind it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to write your script. So you have what you want your end of story to be, your end of your movie to be at 2019. Write down what are the 4 or 5 things you need to do on a daily basis to reach that story. Go ahead. All right, you got it? So you have your end of your story. You have the 4 or 5 things you need to do on a daily basis to make your goals happen. Now, here's the beauty of all this. None of it matters, okay, if you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. Simple as that. I always joke around, I know how to recruit. I personally think I am the best recruiter in the country. And that's not ego talking. It's confidence. Maybe it's a fact. That's what I feel. But that wouldn't matter if I didn't have the right mindset. Okay? You may be the best listing agent on earth. You could be the best buyer's agent on earth. You could be the best closer. But if your mindset is not there that day, it doesn't matter what you know. You could be the best on the phone. You could be the best at converting. But if your mindset isn't there, none of it matters. So there's exercises, just like, if I want to get ripped, I have to eat right, I got to exercise. There's certain things I got to do. Your mindset is exactly the same way. I'm a positive guy, but I always joke around. There are times I get kicked in the you-know-what that I don't feel so great. But I'm able to lean on the mindset exercises to pull myself out of it. Because you will be in the trenches. You will feel bad. The ability is, are you going to feel bad for a week, or are you going to feel bad for 5 minutes, snap out of it, and move on? Okay? It is inevitable, the feeling bad part. The question is how quick you can bounce out of it. Okay? So there are exercises that you can do. There's a great TED Talk, if you want to learn more about it, by a guy named Sean Acqualina. It's a 12-minute TED Talk. It's hilarious. And this has not only changed my life, it's changed my leadership's life, it has changed the life of my agents. Anybody who's done our coaching program and does this within 2 or 3 weeks, we know whether they've been doing our gratitude exercises or not. Okay? And it's very simple.
What was his name?
Sean Acqualina. Achor. It's a 12-minute TED Talk. And really, I'm gonna give it to you in 30 seconds. Number 1, write down 3 things for which you are grateful for every day. Now, the reason I say write down is when you put it in your phone, okay, you're not really connected to it. You know that whole mantra, do not touch? Well, now it's changed to do touch. Because there's science behind the fact that once you touch something, you own it. So when you write it down, you're touching it. And I guess to a certain extent, even when you're typing it in your phone, but maybe I'm old school, I'm 40, so I'm more old school, I want to write things down, okay? Write down 3 things for which you're grateful for. Here's what's going to happen. Today, you're going to sit down and you're going to write it out. And you're going to be grateful for, God willing, today's class. You're going to be grateful for the beautiful weather that I'm staring at the ocean behind you guys, right? Your family, your kids, whatever. The real work is going to start if you want to keep it fresh, because the thing is, the point is to not repeat yourself, okay? Unless for whatever reason, like today, you're really grateful for that again, okay? The real work starts when you have to start analyzing the world around you to really think about what you're grateful for. Like right now, I was grateful for 2 really great things. Carolina, because I thought I was going to be late, and I text her, I go, God, I really need a huge favor. Can you please get me a cold brew? Got it. I live in Davie. I thought I was going to get here right at 10 o'clock. I got here at 9:40. I got here before Carolina did. And she lives in Aventura. I was like, man, I got no traffic. That was great. Sometimes, by the way, I'm grateful for traffic. And I'm grateful for red lights. Because if I'm listening to a really great podcast, I don't want to get home. I want to listen to it. Okay? So that's where the real work starts, because you start analyzing the world around you and you start looking for those small things. I didn't run out of gas. Hey, I was able to buy flowers. Whatever. And when you get on that train, it's really hard to stop. Okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, Journal, and this all takes about a minute, literally takes 60 seconds. Journal about one positive experience. You know what? I was grateful that today, funny enough, I actually was able to valet park my truck. I drive a Ford Raptor pickup truck. It's huge. And I remember, by the way, you want to talk about listening to advice? When I bought the truck, everybody told me, you're the president of a large company. You can't drive a pickup truck. Okay, no lie. And I said, F you guys, I'm buying a fucking pickup truck. What the fuck do I care? I'm the one driving in it 2-3 hours a day. Pardon my French, I'm sorry, I curse. But, you know, and coincidentally enough, I buy it, and when I pull up, people are like, man, that's a sick pickup truck. What is it? Because, by the way, a Raptor is like a Porsche in a pickup truck body. It really is. First time I ever valet it. I'm grateful because now my mind got freed up that I can valet park my car. And it took me pulling into Acqualina and looking at cars that are worth 4 times the value of my truck or more. They can park that thing, they can park my truck. And now I'm freed up. I don't have to worry about parking anymore. I'll let people, you know, something simple as that. It really is, okay? Positive experience in your life. And if you can, and please do not tell me you do not have time, exercise. I cannot tell you how important exercising in your life is, okay? Even if you're in a wheelchair like my good friend Enrique here, he pushes. There's absolutely zero fucking excuse. I moved out to Davie, my commute more than doubled. So what do? I put an entire CrossFit gym in my garage. And I can tell you that when you exercise, it releases the same chemicals in your brain as cocaine and all that good jazz, okay? The endorphins, whatever, okay? And then when you're on that high, by the way, let me tell you something. When you're feeling good about yourself, don't you feel like you can sell anything to anybody? And when you feel bad, you don't want to talk to anybody? So the science behind these exercises are that you're 31% more productive and you're 37% better at sales. And I think we all want to be 37. I think we'd take 10%. Literally 37% better at sales. Okay? Now, part 2 to this is, all right, I'm excited to get out of bed in the morning. I have everything I need to go knock on a door. I have everything I need to go make a phone call. I have every knowledge or whatever. And what happens? Fear sets in. Okay? And this is a great, again, there's a Tim Ferriss, again, none of this is mine, guys. I'm bottling it all up for you. Okay? There's a great TED Talk from Tim Ferriss, Ferris, about how to conquer fears. And he really breaks it down to 5 things that you need to do in order to conquer your fear. And the first one is you actually need to identify it. Okay? What is that fear? Be specific. After you identify the fear, how do you prevent it from happening? After you write down how you're able to prevent it, how do you repair the damage? So you have this fear, you wrote down ways in which you can prevent it from happening, okay? But let's say it happens. Oh shit, the world imploded. How do you repair the damage? Have a plan in place on how to repair the damage if your fear, in fact, does come to fruition. Now, so let's say that your fear is knocking on doors, okay? That's your fear. Or actually, let me even break it out more macro at that. Looking stupid. That's really what it is. People aren't necessarily, you know, the whole somebody's going to slam the door on my face and all that. That's bullshit. That's at surface level. That's what you're telling yourself the fear is. No, the fear is you're going to knock on somebody's door. Now you're face to face with a customer that you have no idea what they're going to ask you, because on a listing presentation, you know they're going to ask you about that specific property. Or if you're showing them Acqualina, you know that you have Yancey here to answer the questions. But when you're knocking on somebody's door, you don't know what they're going to ask you. And you may look stupid. That's the real fear behind knocking on a door, by the way. Okay? How do you prevent it? Educate yourself about all the everything that's going on. If you're knocking a specific street, know what's on sale, what's for sale there. Know what's recently closed. If there's a main drag, know the main drag. What's happening on the main drags to get into that neighborhood? Because think about what people see on their drive to their house. Educate yourself. That's how you prevent looking stupid. How do you repair the damage? Okay, now all of a sudden they ask you a question you don't know the answer to. Don't say I don't know. You know, that's a great question. Let me find out for you. Not you know, I don't know. I'll find out for you. And actually, that's a great thing because it gives you a reason to come back, right? So, how do you repair the damage? Now, and I'm just going to use door knocking because it's something I think we can all relate to. Let's say that you are able, because there's no farming better, prospecting, cold-wise, than door knocking. Nothing better. Hands down, nothing better. Do not let anybody tell you anything else. Because I can call you, and you may or may not answer the phone. I can mail you, and if you do, then I got to somehow, over the phone, convey my personality, right? Which, over the phone, it's very easy to just click. I can mail you, and what do people do when they get the mailer? Whoop, in the trash. I knock on your door. I still may have the same 5-second window to impress you, but now I'm doing it in person. And I know for a fact in person I am significantly better than on the phone. Okay? Nothing better. So let's say that you are able to go door knocking and you conquer that fear. How does your life change? Okay? Sounds like we have whale noses in the back. How does your life change? And you don't have to do this right now, but write down what your life changes. So if you never do prospecting and all of a sudden you can do prospecting and you know you're going to make an extra 100K this year because you go, how does your life change if you made that extra 100K? By the way, you have no idea how much more. You know, people tend to look at things like door knocking singularly. They just look at that. It has so many more, just like the show, people look at it and they just look at the show. There are more benefits to the show that I do that have nothing to do with the show itself, between the connections that I make, the knowledge that I learned that I can share with you. The fact that I never spoke at an event publicly. I think I spoke at one event in my 4.5 years running the company. And now, since the beginning of this year, this is the 3rd event that I spoke to, and I have 3 more that I've been invited to speak to. That's important, because as the leader of my company, nobody's going to be a bigger advocate for my brokerage than me, right? I mean, think about it. Not purposely, I've dropped the company name how many times? And I haven't done that on purpose. I just, the way it comes out, right? The benefits are huge. You go door knocking, all of a sudden you learn how to meet somebody at their property, face to face, cold turkey. That is a skill that translates into coming into a room here and being able to say hi to Floraba. How are you? Well, I know her, but not knowing her. Or turning around and apologizing for not saying hi to you guys earlier because we had the technical difficulties. The skills are so transferable across the board. Okay? So how does your life change? But here's the thing. What happens if you don't do it? How does your life change? Now, I ask you that because some of you may be thinking, well, if I don't do it, my life stays the same. Well, you know, the only constant in life is change. Okay, your life changes. There's another cliche. If you're not growing, you're dying. Okay? A year from now, 3 years from now, how does your business look like? By the way, everybody talks about technology being the biggest disruptor in our business and blah, 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 and all that jazz. It could be. Very well could be. But for right now, the one skill that's not being taught at most brokerages is the ability to get face-to-face, belly-to-belly, palm-to-palm, and actually being able to communicate that and translate that into a relationship. Personally, that's what I think the disruptor is. Because even though everybody's saying, oh, millennials and technology and all that jazz, there's a Harvard study that followed 800 men. Okay? This is actually, it's another TED Talk. One of the longest studies ever done. It's like 80-something years. And they followed them in their teens, and now most of them are dead, and now they're starting to follow their kids. Okay? And what they did with this group was they followed, and half of them, 400 of them were really rich, and the other half were from like the ghettos of New York and New Jersey and all that. And they asked them, what do you think you need in order to live a happy life? All of them said, I need to be rich. Most of them said, I need to be famous. Okay? So and this is like 80 years ago. So they followed these people every single year. They interviewed them. They had a psychologist sit down with them. They started scanning their brains once the technology became available. Then they started interviewing their wives when they got married. They started interviewing their kids once their kids got older. And what they found out that was the person's happiness later on in life had nothing to do with how much money they had. It had nothing to do with their fame. It had to do with the depth of their relationship with their significant other, their kids, their family, and their friends. There is an underlying human nature in us as mammals that will never change, no matter how much technology is out there, no matter where we think we're going. And that is the want and the need for connection. Okay? That's the disruptor, by the way. I don't even know how I got off on that tangent. Okay, sorry, I just went off a little bit there. But that's the reality. So going back, I have no idea how I went on that. But at the end of the day, if you're able to conquer your fear, how does your life change? So when you have these fears, okay, literally sitting in my truck last night, talking to my brother, to give you an idea, is one of the most successful orthopedic surgeons in the country. He lives in Colorado. Was the team doctor for the Denver Nuggets. He left it for a job to go into Vail and be one of the doctors of the #1 orthopedic clinic in the country. And he was terrified, but I gave him this exercise and he took the job. And we're talking not like a couple $100,000 a year, we're talking millions of dollars a year. Okay? This is a very, very powerful exercise. Now, what are some tips or hacks, as I like to say, to reach your goals? And I'll be wrapping up in a few. Number one, check off the boxes. So we actually discovered this on a fluke in in that coaching program I told you about, in our last one. Don't ask me how. I think it was maybe even over drinks. But it's kind of fascinating. Everybody wants to have an accountability partner and all that jazz, and that's great. But usually your accountability partner is your friend who's looking for the same reason to get out of it as you are. It doesn't work. So really, ultimately, one of the other common denominators among the super successful, which I didn't mention, maybe I'll add it as 6, they hold themselves accountable. So how do you do that? So I call it check off the boxes. Okay? So for us, or for you, you have to create, I have 5 goals. So I have 5 boxes I need to check. And at the end of every night, I look at my 5 goals and I check off if I got closer to those goals. Did I do something to get ownership of my company? Did I do something to double my income? Did I do something to get ripped? Whatever it is, okay? So I check off the boxes. Or maybe I don't check off the boxes. And then I have to face that realization of, I didn't check off that box today. The other thing is, you get those same boxes and you look at tomorrow. And does tomorrow, what's up, buddy? How are you? How you doing, buddy? Good, man. Does tomorrow have the same box? Does tomorrow check off your boxes for you? Because at the end of the day, it's too late. Day's over, right? Can't do any, well, maybe, depending, still you can email it, whatever. But really, your day's over. But you can still control what's going to happen. You can control your efforts tomorrow. You can't control results, but you can control the effort. So does your calendar tomorrow give you the opportunity to check off those boxes? And if it doesn't, well, guess what? You still have time to change your schedule. So when we talk about chipping away, I consider my goals pretty big, and they're daunting. Break it down to the micro level. Did I do something today to reach my 5 goals, and does my schedule tomorrow do something to check off those 5 boxes? And if it doesn't, can I change it to? And if you do that enough times, repetitiveness, get in the reps, as Tom said on Wednesday. If you get in the reps, guess what's going to happen? You will reach your goals. It's that simple, putting in the reps. Okay, I have a quick exercise. Everybody's got a phone with a calculator on it, right? Okay, pull it out. For the women, hey guys, how much did you spend for your haircut? Or for your hair? Put it down. Just do this. Do the actual exercise.
One for a week, one time.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
A month.
One time or a month, sure, a month. Okay? You're wearing earrings. How much did you spend on your earrings? How much did you spend on your necklace? I'm looking at you. How much did you spend on your sunglasses?
Oh, wow.
I dropped $200 on a pair of Oakleys. I'm like, dude, it's nuts. How much did you spend on the clothes you're wearing? On your watch. I saw a few Rolexes floating around. Right? On your bags, your purses. Especially in this city, my God. Women will drop $5,000 on a purse like no business. Okay? How much did you spend on your shoes, your belt? And when you add it up, how much did you spend on your car to get here?
What do you mean? Like the whole money or the...
Whatever, just any number. See, the beauty of it is you can take a one-time, guys, you can take a one-time payment. Okay? And the exercise still works. So add that number up. 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 5,000, whatever that number is. And ask yourself in 2018, how much did you spend on making yourself better? Now, you came today. Today's a free event. By the way, I think it's a great fucking event for free. I should start charging. But think about it, right? This is a free event. When's the last time you paid to go to an event? Or if you did pay, you're like, oh, I gotta pay for this? Right? Invest in your brain. Because that's the only thing you can take with you. This is gonna wear out. You may crash your car, your watch may get stolen. Everybody is willing to drop money on how they look and all that jazz. My suits are from Jose Banks. It cost me $300. I'd rather be in Lululemon than a suit. Honestly. I'll spend money on Lulu in a heartbeat. Okay? I don't care, because this to me, yeah, it's necessary, but it's not important. But when I tell you, if I told you how much money I spend on investing in myself, so I joke that I have 3 people on my personal payroll. Because I can't reach my goals by myself. I can't. And that's cool. I'm okay with that. All right? Because if I could reach my goals by myself, I probably wouldn't want them as my goals anyways. So one of my goals is I want to get ripped. I lost 23 pounds last year. I lost another 7 this year alone. Why? I hired a nutritionist to help me get to that next level. And actually, quite frankly, what I love most about him is at the end of every night, I have to text him what I ate, how much I slept, if I drank, what I did for exercise, the accountability. And if for every drink I do, my deal with him is, because I do like to have a drink every now and then, I got to do 25 burpees. You know? So, but it holds me accountable. We talked about unbiased information, and it's lonely. So back a few years ago, my wife and I were separated, okay? And we had a great marriage counselor named Jack Whites. The guy is a fucking miracle worker. I love Jack. I probably referred him to most of my friends. Now, I didn't have an ego because I knew we needed help, okay? And I'm not afraid to admit it, okay? I started going back to Jack by myself. Because it's lonely. And you need an unbiased person to just be a sounding board. Okay? There are things that I want to accomplish business-wise that I just do not have the business acumen. I mentioned this earlier on. That guy, Brad Lee, I hired him as a coach. The guy's worth $50 million. If I were to give you the numbers that he charges per hour, it's a lot of money. But that's okay. And it all happened because of this, by the way. I'll share with you what my moment was. 2017 into 2018, we go to North Carolina every year for New Year's. And we were sitting in North Carolina. I was sitting with a good friend of mine, Arlo. And Arlo and I were sitting over a glass of wine. I'm like, man, 2018, I'm going to do this, and this. Okay? Fast forward 2018 into 2019. What do? We go back to North Carolina. Now, Arlo didn't join us this year because he lived up there at the time. He moved to Melbourne. So we drive every year. So we were going to drive down to Melbourne on the way down, spend some time with him and his wife and his kids were all great friends, and then finish the drive home the next day. And that's what we did. So as I was driving to Melbourne, I literally had an anxiety attack or a panic attack. Okay? Inside, I didn't like flip out and pull over. But enough that my wife looked at me, she's like, dude, are you okay? You know? I said, holy shit. I'm going to go and have the same conversation with Arlo that I did a year ago, and nothing changed.
For
okay?
you or for him?
Not for him.
For me.
Okay.
And that's when I said, that's it. I went out and I hired the people to help me. Okay? Invest in yourself. Try something that scares you. Okay? For perfect example, I'm filming this. This is not live or anything, but I'm filming it because I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel. Okay? 6 months ago, prior to ever starting the show, I used to think people that got in front of the camera were douchebags. No lie. So much so that I had to call a friend of mine, a business friend, and say, dude, I have to apologize. He's like, for what? I'm like, 'cause I thought you were the greatest douchebag. He's, why? Dude, well, come on. Because I didn't understand the show. It scared the shit out of me. I started thinking, what are people going to think of me if I do this? And then I'm like, screw it, I'm going to do it. Literally on a whim, sitting at Brickell City Center, sorry, I'm mentioning Brickell City Center, with Craig Studnicki and Richard Greenfield, who's right there in the purple jacket, purple suit, held the phone. We were sitting on the couch, and he would go like this and go back and forth. And he's holding it, which means his hand moves. Okay? To now, sometimes some of the episodes have gotten over 40,000 views. And we've recruited a ton of agents because of it. The brand has recognized. I'm in front of you guys because of it. Right, Yancy? It scared the living crap out of me. To this day, it still scares me. Like, I'm interviewing a guy that's worth $500 million in his living room in Bel Air. Just think about that for a minute. I was nervous. I was scared. I even talk about it. I don't care. I literally have, like, you know, the veins in your arms? I literally have a heart on my arm. My veins form a heart. I swear to God. It's the freakiest, it's a crazy, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Okay? Do something that scares you. So my phone's there. Whatever your goals are, write them in the notes section of your phone. Okay? Take a screenshot and then make it the wallpaper on your phone. Why? You go on your phone an average of more than 100 times a day. Okay? So it's great to go and see pictures of your kids or your significant other, or your car, or the view that you want, whatever. But every time I go on my phone, my 5 goals are staring at me. And I can't tell you the impact that makes on me from a repetitive nature of seeing it all the time. It's a cool little hack. I got that from an Ed Milet podcast. Talking about podcasts, use your time wisely. So I don't know these numbers off the top of my head, so I'm going to share them with you quickly. Okay? On average, I drive over 2 hours a day, sometimes 3. And I used to only listen to music when I was driving. Now I listen to podcasts, YouTube videos all the time. So let's say you don't want to invest the money in self-improvement to attend events or whatever it is. We're all realtors. We spend a lot of time in our car. 2 hours a day, so this is the math. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'll give myself the weekends off. 52 hours a year. 5 days a week, that's 52 hours. 52 hours a week. Sorry, no, it's 10 hours a week. I'm sorry. 520 hours a year. 10 hours a week times 52 weeks. That I spend in my car for free making myself better. I can listen to music. Sometimes I do. When I was pulling into here, I switched over to Lil Wayne, Drop the World. Okay? And it's a nasty rap song, and it says, I'm going to drop the world on your fucking head. That's literally what the song says. And I love it, because that's the way that's like my rendition of how I'm going to conquer the world. Okay? And we talked about technology. You want to improve your skills. Don't rely so much on email and text messages. Face-to-face, belly-to-belly, palm to palm. So those are my life hacks. Okay? So then, the question is capacity. Don't be scared to find out what your capacity is. People thought I was nuts when I told them I can run the brokerage and travel for my show and be a father of 4 and be there for all the soccer games and be there for all the practices and all that jazz. Okay? People thought I was nuts. I said, I'm 40. I got so much runway ahead of me, it's not even funny. This is what David and I were talking about. Capacity. Testing our capacity. Don't be afraid to test your capacity. You are capable of a lot more than you think you can do. So I'm going to leave it on this, because ultimately it all belongs to this. If you want to reach your goals in 2019, are you interested in reaching your goals or are you committed? Because that's really the determining factor. Perfect example. So we had a bunch of friends just run the A1A half marathon 2 weekends ago. And my wife looks at me and she goes, we should run a full. Now I've never done an Ironman, I've done half Ironmans. They're 5, 6, 7 hour races. They take a while, okay? Unless you're Jose Cifuentes and Diego, who do them in 4.5 hours? They take a long time. You can't be interested in doing a half Ironman or an Ironman. You have to be committed, okay? So the question you have to ask yourself about your goals are you interested or are you committed? Okay? And for that, I'm done.